Hey middle schoolers, welcome back. We're in week 3 of This or That. If you don't know me, my name is Brent. I'm the student pastor at the Mandarin campus, and if you like our videos, if you are one of our students, go ahead and subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell every time a new video comes up. You'll be the first one to get it. So we've been talking about this topic of comparison for the last 3 weeks, and I'm going to be closing this series out today, but we're talking about comparison. And comparison is simply us looking at somebody else or what they have or a skill that they have or something about them and comparing ourselves to that, saying either I don't have that, so I guess I'm not as good as that person, or saying they don't have what I have, so I'm better than that person. And either way, that's not a good thing. Either way, we become jealous of somebody, or we become prideful because we feel like we're better than someone. And what happens is ultimately that just hurts our relationships. And when you look at Jesus and when you read about Jesus in the Bible, and you read that, or maybe you watch the Bible Project and you've seen a lot about Jesus on there, I highly recommend go check out the Bible Project. And when you read about Jesus, when you see things about Jesus, when you hear about Jesus, and not just bad things about Jesus that people have made up, but like the actual story of Jesus, the things that he did, you see that he didn't really compare himself to anybody else. He didn't do that because it wasn't important to him. He had a greater mission that he was on earth to do. He had a greater purpose in life than sitting around comparing themselves with each other. And a lot of times when we sit around and compare ourselves with each other, we're not getting anywhere. We're not doing anything. We're just causing problems and getting upset with ourselves or with them. And while some people have taken their comparisons of other people and used that as motivation to do a lot of big things, usually it's things that are going to make that person look good. It's not really things that are going to make Jesus look good. And if we're followers of Jesus, we should be making Jesus known. We should be doing things to make Jesus famous in the world and help people get to know Jesus. And so, when we focus on Jesus, we love people first, and we don't compare ourselves to them, because that's what Jesus did. He loved people first, and he served people, and he did things to help people. And so we're going to pick up in the scripture. We're going to read from the letter of Romans. We're in Romans chapter 12, and this letter to the Romans was written by a guy named Paul, and Paul is one of the apostles of Jesus, which means that he was one of the ones that Jesus said, I want you to go tell this story to everybody. Paul's written a lot of the letters that are in the New Testament. He's told people how, the story of Jesus, how to follow Jesus, what it means to be a follower of Jesus. And so this letter to the Romans is great. He wrote this to a bunch of young Christians who were in Rome, and they wanted to know more about what it meant to follow Jesus and how they should do it, what they should be doing. And so Paul wrote this letter to the Romans. And in chapter 12, we're going to pick up there in verse 1. It says, "And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice that he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him." So the Romans had a lot of things going on. I don't know if you know anything about Roman culture and the way that Rome was, but they did a lot of things with their bodies that weren't very good. And I'm not going to get into that because it's a little graphic, but they did things with their bodies that weren't very good. And they needed to know, these people who wanted to follow Jesus, they needed to know that, hey, if you're going to do anything with your body, use your body to serve Jesus. Use your body to do good. Use your body to learn more about Jesus, to pray to Jesus, to worship him through your life and the way that you live, because people should be able to look at us as followers of Jesus and go, there's something special about that person. And that special thing that we have would be Jesus. And so that's what he's kind of getting at right here. And so we'll pick back up. "Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good, pleasing, and perfect." So again, Paul's saying, don't be like everybody else. Don't do what everybody else does. Don't do the bad things that people are doing. For us, reading this, we can look at it and go, well, then this means to me that I shouldn't be comparing myself to other people, because our world tells us that, if you're not the most popular person on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram or wherever, whatever new social media channel that's going to come up this week, if we're not the top person on there, if we're not one of the, if we don't have the blue check by our name, then we're just not that important. You're just a minion. You're just some person out there, and there's nothing really important about you. And social media creates this comparison game because, when we look at somebody's life on social media, we're always seeing the highlights. We're always seeing the good things about that. And it makes us want to start going, well, maybe I need to post the highlights of my life and show everybody how great I am and how great my life's going. But that's not real. That's not true, because usually people who are posting all these fancy pictures and things like that just want some attention because life's not going so well. And we start comparing ourselves to somebody else's highlights, and we start thinking that that's a great thing. And we start doing that because we want to feel better about ourselves. We want to feel like there's something more. Or I'm going to do the next TikTok dance and put it out there so that I can get 1 million views, and maybe I can become important because the person who has 1 million views is important. Which, side note, y'all, the person who has 1 million views probably has a ton of time on their hands, and they're probably not doing anything but that. So if you're comparing yourself to those people, just keep in mind that that person probably, they live for that. And we, as followers of Jesus, are supposed to live for Jesus. One of the things that people always think about and talk about is, well, what's God's will for my life? What's God's will for my life? Because we all think that we have to have a specific will that God has given each one of us, and we need to live that out. And if I'm not doing exactly that, then I guess I'm not really living. Well, this was an idea that started in Roman culture. Roman culture believed that they're the gods, because they believe in lots of gods, not one. They didn't believe in our God, the true God. They believed in a bunch of different gods, but they believed that these gods have a very specific will for their life. That, my name is Brent and my last name is Glover, so if I have to be one who makes gloves, and I have to do this or I have to do that, and if I'm not making gloves perfect, then I guess I'm not doing God's will for my life. And that's a weird example, but it's kind of the way that they thought, is if I'm not doing exactly what that is, then I guess I'm not doing what I've been created to do. And Paul's saying, hey, God's going to change your mind, and he's going to transform you so you don't think like everybody else, so that you're not playing the comparison game, so that you're not doing all these other things that people are doing, because those aren't that important. I'm going to tell you what is important. And Jesus said in Mark 12, 30 and 31, he said, God's will is for us to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love one another as yourselves. Love your others as yourselves. And really, it comes down to love God and love others. And so what God's will is for us is to love God and love others. It's to follow Jesus and to help other people know Jesus by the way that we love them and by the way that we treat them. Because that's God's will. He wants us to follow him and help others. And if we're not doing that, if we're getting caught up in the comparison game, if we're more concerned about comparing ourselves to others, then when we compare ourselves to others, we hurt our relationships with them, and we probably don't help them anyway, because we build up all these things in our mind, or put issues in between us and that person because we've compared ourselves to them. We think we're either better or not as good, and now we don't have a good relationship with them, when Jesus says, go serve that person, love that person. Take time to get to know them. Take time to get to show them the love of Jesus. Take time to get to tell them about Jesus. And so we're going to pick back up and read a little bit more scripture. Verse 9, don't just pretend to love others, really love them. Hate what is wrong and hold tightly to what is good. Love each other with genuine affection and take delight in honoring each other. Paul says, take delight in honoring each other. Love one another, really love one another. Don't just pretend to love one another. Just really, truly love other people and honor them. And the point that I want to make today is that when we love Jesus, we'll love others instead of comparing ourselves to them. Because Jesus doesn't want us to compare ourselves to other people. He wants us to love other people. And so, as you go into your small group today, I want you to be thinking about things and talking about what are some ways that you could love people instead of comparing yourself to them. What are some ways that maybe you've compared yourself to somebody, maybe even in your small group, instead of loving them? And what are some practical ways that you can show love to people that you maybe have compared yourself to in the past, or people that compare themselves to you? What are ways that you can love them instead of comparing yourself to them? Because Jesus would love them. He would show them love. He would honor them. He would say that you are important. You are somebody who is made in the image of God, and you are known, you are loved, and I care for you. That's what Jesus would tell those people. And so how can we do that instead of comparing? Because the world tells us to compare, but Jesus tells us to love. Y'all have a great week.